Hello everyone. We will continue our journey on STL algorithms. In the previous episode, we discussed about the land of permutations. Before moving forward, I will make one more bit discuss about the partition and partition point. The partition algorithm partitions the data into two and returns the pointer to the partition point. The partition point algorithm also returns the partition point and it also requires the data to be already partitioned. So what is the use of partition point? If partition is already returning us the same information, where we will use partition point? So the thing is that once you call partition and have a partitioned data, down the road in your code later, you might not have saved what the partition returned. You might be in some different function. And at that time, if you want to know where your partition point is, you don't have to call partition, which will again partition the data. You can just call the partition point and it will return you the same information. Okay, so that is the use of partition point. Now we were in the land of permutations, and if we look towards the left of that land, we have secret runes. Secret runes needs to be discovered, and they once you discover them, they increase the power of your algorithms. Just like in games, we discover some secret and we get the power is attached to that secret, right? So same with this. These are the algorithms which can. These are the new algorithms. These are the ways to create new algorithms, and we will see how it happens. For the permutations, we have three rules that are applicable: stable, is, and is until. So let's discuss about the is and is until first. If we have a sorted collection, then is sorted will return true when called for that collection. Is partitioned will return a boolean depending upon whether the collection is partitioned or not, and is heap also will return true or false if the collection is heap or not. Similarly, is star until will check only until one particular point and will return true or false depending upon the result. The stable star is an important to understand what is the difference between stable algorithms and regular algorithms. So we have sort and we have stable sort. What is the difference in that? And so is the same for partition. So let us discuss what is the difference between stable sort and irregular sort. The difference is the relative order of the elements before and after sort is performed. So if we see this slide, we have these objects to be sorted. So these objects have two properties. One is the number, which we want to use as sorting property, and one is the color of the object. So if we observe that these three objects have the same number, okay, and this is the order in which they are existing before the sort happens. Now, when a regular sort is called on this collection, it will sort the objects in the increasing order of the number property. But because these three objects had same number property, the order in which they were existing prior to sort happened, that order may not be preserved. Like for example, here we see when the sort is applied, the 10 that was existing at this location previously in the unsorted collection has moved further. Their relative order is not there. Orange, blue, green, green, orange, blue, not preserved. In the stable sort, however, if the property on which we are sorting, like here the number 10 number, and that property is same between the objects, the relative order of those objects is preserved. So orange, blue, green, orange, blue, green. So this is very important thing to understand, because stable sort then can be used in real life scenario. So let me talk about that scenario, that what is the real life scenario where I thought the stable sort algorithm can actually help us. Let's move to the Excel. The Excel I have. So if you see here in this Excel sheet, I have a table, right? Age and let's say weekly spend, the money a person of that particular age is spending in a week. And you can imagine that this is part of a larger table and things like that. So in Excel, we have this sort and filter functionality, right? So we can sort A to Z, Z to A, and there is something called custom sort. So if we see this custom sort, it has capability of sorting twice. Like first you sort by age and then you sort by weekly spend. Okay, if I say okay, then it will sort first by age. As you can see, all the age groups are sorted, age numbers are sorted, and within one age group, the numbers will be sorted as well. Okay, so in such a case, if we were to do similar thing in C++, we can use stable sort, and that is what I wanted to demonstrate in our example for stable sort. So let us switch to our code and see how it goes. In C++, if we were to store the information that we saw in Excel, we can use a pair, right? So a pair of age and weekly spend, that is one pair. And then we have an array or collection of such pairs, right? So let's declare that, and we have stud pair for this purpose, right? So we have two um, elements in the pair, both are integers, and let's type def it stud pair intent to, let's say, ii pair. So I am just renaming so that I don't have to type every time this. I'll just type ii pair, and I have um, ii pair. I will create an ii pair, a vector of ii pair. Okay, so that is my two column table equivalent. Okay, and then I will say age weekly spend table. Okay, and because we have that data from Excel, I'll just paste the data here so that we can get the same Excel like data, and we'll see if the output matches what the Excel was showing us. So let me grab the data from my notes. So here is the data of that table. Um, Now what we want to do is we want to sort by age, and then within that, within the same age elements, the weekly spend should also be sorted from minimum to max, right? So we will do this in the reverse way actually. So what we will do is we'll first sort this collection of ii pair by the weekly spend, and then we will apply stable sort on that sorted collection so that it will sort by the age, but we will it will the keep the relative order of earlier sort, right? So earlier sort has already sorted the pairs with the weekly spend. So for example, this 25 age 1456 weekly spend will be are before existing before 25 2919 weekly spend. When we apply stable sort, this data, this order will be preserved. So we should see the same result as we saw in our Excel in multiple column sort, right? So let's try to do that and see if it works. So first we want to apply a regular sort algorithm on age table. Okay, so we want to supply, this is a vector of I pairs. So from first element to last element we want to apply. Okay, now we want to first sort the pairs, the collection of pairs by the weekly spend, right? So in the pair, how do you access the first and second element? Using first and second property. So let's write a functor. Now the functor will be used by sort algorithm, and it will supply two pairs. Okay. Um, Current, or we can say P1, P2. So these are the two pairs it is trying to compare, and we want to help it by telling it that sort by the second property. So we will return true if P1 dot for second property, because we want to sort by weekly spend first, um, is less than P2 dot second. That's all we want to do. Okay, so let's print this. So we don't have a regular function to print it because our print vector function only prints vector of integers. It doesn't take the functor. So let's use for each for this purpose. For each um, age table dot begin till the end, we want to print this. So II pair will be the argument, and we want to do cout of age first. So p dot first, and then space, one space, and then we want to print p dot second, and then we want to end line. So this way it will print our vector of pairs. Let's see how it goes. So you can see that the result is that it is sorted by the weekly spend. Okay, now on top of it we want to apply stable sort. So let's comment this out because we don't want to um, sorry, we don't want to see this again. We want to just see the final output. So we will okay, let's reuse it. Now we want to do a stable sort on this collection. Now again it takes same vector begin and end, and now it takes the predicate. This time we want to sort the pair using the second or the first property, age, because we have already used the second one. So we have sorted by second, and now we want to sort it by age. That's it. Okay. Sorry. Here. Now let's see what is the output. So now if you see, our data is sorted by age, the first column if you observe, and if you see within the column or within the 25 age one group, the weekly spend table or data is also sorted. Okay, how did it happen? Because one first time when it sorted by the weekly spend, then when we called stable sort on that sorted data, it did not change the relative order of the objects. So the relative order of these four objects was in this order only in the first sort. When we applied stable sort, that relative order did not change. The first element with 25 age remained first, the second element with 25 range remained second, the third element based on the weekly spend I'm saying, third element of 25 age remained third, and fourth element of 25 range remained fourth, which was fourth in the first or the in the result of the regular sort algorithm. So this way we can use stable sort to internally implement multi-column sorting feature in a Excel like program if you will. So that is very nice application for the stable sort I wanted to discuss. Hope you liked it. Moving back to slides. Now we come to the land of queries. This land of queries is the largest island or category of algorithms, and let's see what we have got. It has got province of research, province of value queries, and then province of property queries, two range properties, lot of provinces in this kingdom of land of queries. So let's get started. First is the collection of numeric algorithms. So we have count, inner product, accumulate and reduce, and there is transform reduce also, adjacent difference, partial sum, inclusive and exclusive scan, and their transform um, derivatives, and then there is a sample. So these are the numeric algorithms we will discuss. Count, as you see, simply gives you the count of particular set of elements, particular elements that you are looking for, and that is quite useful in many um, problem solving things. Inner product. The inner product basically gives you the dot dot product of two vectors. It's that kind of thing which multiplies the first element of first collection to first element of second collection, multiplies the second element of first collection to the second element of second collection, third element of first collection to the third element of second collection, and so on. After it multiplies, then it sums them up. And that is exactly what we do in our dot product of vectors, right? So it can be used in that case. Um, it can also be used in matrix multiplication, where you have this dot product calculated for a row of matrix, first matrix, to the column of the second matrix. Okay. In the accumulate, basically it adds the data which has already been collected or sums up. For example, it will take the first element's value and take the second element's value and sum it up and put that value in the second element, and then it will take third element and the previous sum and put that third element plus the previous sum into the third element, and so on and so forth. The reduce does a similar thing, and we will talk more about these when we give examples. I just want to go through first what they do, and then we'll take some examples. Adjacent difference, it fills up the elements with two different difference between the two elements, and it basically calculates those and fills up. So first element will be same, second element will be difference between second and first, third element will be difference between third and second, fourth element will be difference between fourth and third, like that, so on. Partial sum is basically sums up the um, elements, just like kind of accumulate, and we will see how these three are different from each other. They basically are that they don't take one first element into consideration. Second is they take the current element which they are overwriting into consideration or not. That is the difference. We will talk about it with examples. Sample basically takes randomly random elements from the collection. If you were to take some samples, you can use the sample algorithm. So let's move to our code and see some examples of these algorithms. Let's talk about inner product first. So let's say we have a vector v, two-dimensional vector, and we have another vector w. Let's say again two-dimensional vector, and we want to calculate their dot product. So the dot product will be called used or can be calculated using inner product. And then the second one, okay, so the answer should be 4 into 2, which is 8, 5 into 3, which is 15, so 15 plus 8 should be 23. So it should return the value 23. Let's call this function from here. Okay, some error. Let's see what it is. It let me check. Okay, there is one additional parameter, that is the initial value that it can take. So we add that, and it does not take the end of the second. Basically, it assumes that we have this um, the begin will automatically know the end because we have provided the first iterators and iterator, right? And where it will end, the first collection. So begin W has to end where V is ending, basically. So let's now try what is the output. So 23 is our vector product, right? This, like I said, can be used for matrix multiplication as well, because we are using the same thing for doing multiplying a row with the column. Okay, now let's talk about accumulate. let's set up an initial value for now to be 0 and prepare a vector 0 to 9 and then call accumulate. So what accumulate will do is it will sum up all the elements of the vector of the collection. So let's call accumulate from VV's begin to VV's end, and it takes an init value. It can add the initial value that you provide and then can sum the next elements in the collection. So let's see what is the sum. So we can comment this out so that there is no output from the previous code. So you can see 45 is the sum. Now it's not that accumulate just takes only the sum. It is actually the default functor that is taken. Sum is the default function that it takes or the operation that it does. If let's say we want to calculate the um, minus, we want to have the difference. Let's say we want to set init to 500, okay, and we want to make sure that the what is the difference between the sum and init value currently. Let's store that auto diff init minus sum, so that will be 55. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to do this 55 calculation using accumulate. How do we do that? So we call accumulate again, vv dot begin, vv dot end, and then init value, which is now, notice that it is 100, and because init is 100, we want to sum the collection and then minus it from the init value. So basically that means we want to minus every element from the init value at least once only, right? So we can say pass the calculator as minus for integers, and then we should be good to go. Okay, and what is it complaining about? Yeah, so now this diff should be same as the first diff. The first diff will be 100 minus the sum, and second diff is 100 minus each element at least once. So both will result into same 55, right? So do not go by literal meaning of accumulate. Okay, accumulate can apply any functor on the collection and then use that result to do the accumulation. Okay, so accumulating is not summing up, it is basically getting the result or accumulating the result that comes from the previous operation and including that result into the next operation. So it is accumulation of the results, not the sum of the elements. Yes, by default the functor or the operation that is done is actually sum. So just want to make sure that we understand that. Okay. Now let's move to another algorithm called reduce. This again um, is like accumulation. Okay. But what is the difference between reduce and accumulate? The difference is the the reduce, this reduce function can work in parallel, can be executed in parallel, while accumulate always executes in sequence. This reduce function has been added in C++17, and in C++17 we can use reduce like this. So we set init again to 0. Okay, and we already have our VV vector. So we say reduce. Okay, and we want to calculate, or we already have that sum variable, so let's keep that reduce, and we need to supply the policy. What is the execution policy? Standard execution par. So this is parallel basically. So we tell that the execution policy that we want to apply while executing the reduce function is parallel execution. Okay, and then rest of the parameters are same. We just simply provide what we did for accumulate. Okay, and let's see what is the sum. So for execution we need to include the header. These execution policies are defined in header execution. Okay, and then we have the error gone, or it's still there. Standard execution, what is the error? Okay, so double quote should be there. Yeah, now let's print what is the sum. Let's comment this out. So 45 is the sum again. So again, do not go by the name of the function reduce. It is same as accumulate. The difference is that reduce can work in parallel. I have an illustrative slide for that. Let's go back to slides and then we will understand it more. So you can see on the left side how the accumulate executes, and on the right side when we have execution parallel policy, how the reduce might execute. So the key difference to know is that accumulate is executing in sequence. It is waiting, it is performing a sum operation, let's say the default one, on first two elements, and then using that result and adding the second element into that result, and so on and so forth. So the first step is there, and the second step depends on the first step to be completed first. Third step depends on the second step to be completed first, and so on. So it will execute in sequence. The reduce, if you see, can take advantage of hardware parallelism, multiple CPU cores in the CPU, and execute the result or the algorithm such that the result will be same, but it will be much faster if executed on the large data. It will parallelize or try to parallelize the execution of the same algorithm. Okay, so the result will be same. We need to be careful about one point though. So um, the Reduce requires that whatever operation that we are performing, for example, the default one is the sum up, should be both associative and commutative. So like this, we did stud minus, that will work fine on the accumulate, okay, because it is executing in sequence, but it may not happen well with reduce because for sum, which is the default one, it is working fine. We are seeing the same result for accumulate and reduce, but because for sum, x plus y is same as y plus x, but x minus y may not be same as y minus x. 5 plus 4 and 4 plus 5 is same, but 5 minus 4 and 4 minus 5 is not same, right? So we need to be careful because of the parallel execution of reduce. The operation that we want to perform on the collection must be both associative and commutative. Minus is not, okay? Sum is, so therefore we are seeing the same result as accumulate in reduce also when we are using the default operation of sum, okay? So let's get back to code. Now there is another form of reduce algorithm called transform reduce, okay? What is transform reduce? It is same as reduce. It can be executed in parallel. The difference is that it can um, it can actually take an initial value, okay, and um, basically transform reduce is same as inner product executed in parallel, basically, okay. So transform reduce, if we take again the same two vectors that we took, v and w, and try to calculate their inner product, we can use transform reduce as well. So v dot begin, v dot end, then we had the second one, w dot begin, w dot end, and the init value like it takes, okay. And then let's see what it gets as the dot product. Okay, so does it have anything to say? Sorry, again, my mistake. It doesn't take the second end, so now it should work. So you can see that 23 is the inner product value. So we can say that transform reduce is basically inner product that can execute in parallel. We can supply here the execution policy parallel, and then it will start executing in parallel, okay. Just like reduce is the parallel implementation or possible parallel execution of accumulate functionality, same is inner products parallel execution or possible parallel execution could be achieved using transform reduce. So what is the learning? The learning is that always use reduce and always use transform reduce instead of inner product and accumulate. So always provide this parallel execution policy. It is not mandatory, but if possible, it will execute in parallel. But the care that you need to take is the associativity and commutativity, commutative properties of the operation that you want to do on the data. Okay. So let's talk about adjacent difference. So it basically it will take first collection X and it will fill up the second collection based on the difference between adjacent elements of the collection. Okay, let's see. So we have a vector. Let's prepare one starting from 0, 10 elements. Okay, and then let's um, sort the vector maybe. Yeah, let's try that. And then we need to create another vector. Let's say vector of int uu with the same size, because sort does the sorting in place, but adjacent difference copies or prepares another collection and does not change the original collection. So this is the result collection that will actually get or store the adjacent differences of the VV vector. Okay, so let's try doing that. Adjacent difference VV dot begin, VV dot end, and then UU dot begin. Okay, and then print vector UU. So can anyone guess what will UU look like? Let's see. Because we have sorted the vector and our vector is from 0 to 9, so therefore bearing the first element which it just takes, the adjacent find, the rest of the differences will always be 1, 0 minus 1, 1 minus 0, 2 minus 1, 3 minus 2, like that. Let's print the um, vector here also so that it will help us see it. But I guess you can imagine it is 1 1, right? If we don't want to sort it, if it is already shuffled, then obviously the result will be depending upon the actual values at that time. So you can see 4 is as it is, minus 4 is because this 0 minus 4 is minus 4, 3 is because 3 minus 0 is 3, 1 minus 3 is minus 2, 5 minus 1 is 4, and 7 minus 5 is 2, and so on and so forth, right? So that is the adjacent difference um, algorithm. So let's see now what the um, partial sum does. Okay, now you see that VV is still a vector which is not touched by adjacent difference. UU is what is modified. Okay, so we still have VV properly there. So let's do partial sum. Okay, it again takes VV. We want to do partial sum on begin and end of the VV and put the result in the U begin and end and print vector UU. So let's see what it does. So we can see it has taken, this is the vector VV and partial sum has given us this. So let's see how it happens. So 4 is there here. So the sum of the two elements 0 plus 4 is 4 here. Second, sum of the third element is taken into account and the previous sum is added into third element. The fourth element is taken into account, the previous sum is added. fifth element is taken into account, the previous sum is added, and so on. So the partial sum takes into consideration the same element which whose slot it is going to modify, and add adds that element's value into that slot. So here it is modifying the fifth element. Okay, so it takes what is the existing value of fifth element, takes the previous sum, and modifies in the resultant collection. The fifth element will be the sum so far and the fifth element's value. Okay, so it does take into account the fifth element of the source collection. Let's see what the inclusive scan does for us. Okay, and print the vector. So you can see there is no difference between partial sum and inclusive scan, right? So it basically does the same thing, but it has more um, overloads, okay, and it can execute in parallel basically. So we can, I guess, say std execution parallel, and it will still execute. There is no such thing as execution parallel for partial sum. So these are new algorithms added in C++17. The idea is that without having to modify much, you should be able to execute the the algorithm in parallel. So the learning is always use inclusive scan instead of partial sum, because it's basically the same algorithm, but you have advantage of being able to execute inclusive scan in parallel. Okay, now let's see what exclusive scan does for us. It obviously can take the policy, and then, sorry, execution vv.begin, vv.end, uu.begin, and then it takes um, initial value. Is that enough? And let's see what it prints. Okay, so we will remove this partial sum printing because it is same as inclusive scan. Let's see what is the difference between inclusive and exclusive scan algorithms. So here is our original vector. Okay, the inclusive scan basically takes the element which it is considering from the previous collection. Okay, so fourth is the first element, so it copies it there. 0 is the second element, it considers the second element while calculating the second element's value in the target collection. So considering 0 and adding to 4, 4. Considering 3 and adding to 4, 7. Considering 1 and adding to 7, 8, like that. But exclusive scan does not consider the current value of the cell in the source collection. So fourth, 4 value is not considered, so 0. So that is the initial value. 0 is not considered, but the previous value is considered. So sum is 4. We need to sum it up, right? The third value is not considered, so the sum is 4. The fourth value is not considered, but the previous value is added, so sum is 7. So it does not consider the current value in the source collection. So therefore, if you see the output of inclusive and exclusive scan, the exclusive scan is lagging by one element, right? So it is as if inclusive scan is shifted one to the right. So that is the only difference. It does not take the current value into picture, into calculation. So then we have the transform version of inclusive scan and exclusive scan. So transform inclusive scan. So what transform inclusive scan does is it basically can it does the same thing as inclusive scan, but it before it doing the add up operation, it can apply a transform on the value. So let's try that with an example. So we want to perform transform inclusive scan, and so by default it um, the inclusive scan sums up the values. So let's provide the same operation for it. So this is the default operation, but because we have a transform operation also to uh, follow here as the last parameter, we do need to specify the default one also. Okay, here in inclusive scan we don't specify any operation here because the standard plus is default, right? So here there is another parameter coming, so we have to specify which is our operation on that. So we are keeping plus as the default operation, but for the transforming operation which will apply before anything is done on that element, meaning the value of this element which is x currently will basically change. What it changes to, that is our um, decision. So let's say we want to multiply each element by 2 and then only do the in do the inclusive scan. Okay, so let's see how it goes. So we will compare the previous inclusive scan with the transform inclusive scan. Maybe that will help. So if you see, this is our inclusive scan, okay, and this is our transform inclusive scan. So we are basically multiplying 4 by 2 before setting it here as the first element. So 4 into 2 is 8. Multiply 0 by 2, 0, and then add the previous result, 8. Multiply 3 by 2, 6, and add the previous result, 14. Multiply 1 by 2, 2, and add the previous result, 16. Like that. The exclusive scan, we want to perform exclusive scan, and all it does is it takes begin end and then the UU begin, and the next parameter is actually the default value, and then basically the binary operation that is the default we want to pick, and the transformer or um, what way you want to change the element before it is applied. So let's check that. let me move this, and let's compare the um, exclusive scan with the older exclusive scan. So let's compare the transform. We have the exclusive scan. Okay, let's keep the inclusive as well. Let's see how it shows up. So now you see, um, this is the uh, inclusive scan. This is exclusive scan, which is lagging the inclusive scan by 1. This is transform inclusive scan, where we multiplied the element by 2 before we applied the regular plus functionality of inclusive, right? And this is the exclusive scan. You can see it is again lagging by of the inclusive transform inclusive scan by 1, as if we were we have shifted this towards right. Why? Because it does not take into account the current value. So current value is 4, not taking into account. So there is where it initial value that we set to 0 in the parameter, that is set over here. Second value is considered for the first. So second value 0, previous value 4 into 2 becomes 8. Third value not considered, 0 into 2 plus the previous value 8. Fourth value not considered, 3 into 2 6 plus previous value 14. Fifth value not considered, 1 into 2 plus 14 16. Seventh 7 not considered, 5 into 2 10 plus 16 26, like that. So we can see that the numerical algorithms can help us, and uh, in many algorithms, many problems, we can quickly calculate the required data in the collection or modify the collection as we want and solve our programs. So it is good to know about these different algorithms in the numeric query land, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you.